I think this is too much for me and that all this stuff, but like you're limiting yourself before even trying. And really reflecting on like how we can make this something sustainable, especially that it was something that previously didn't really work out that way.
Is biomedical engineering the hardest engineering?
You know, why would you bring engineering like hardness politics into this? Okay.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Young Guy International, a product of the Young Guy Initiative, an initiative that represents the needs, interests, and aspirations of young people. But here at Young Guy International, this podcast essentially is aimed at creating a socially connected world, and we're back for season 2. I do want to thank all of you for watching and listening to the first season. We had a total of 8 different episodes across people from across the world, and it was great. So many different conversations, lots to learn from that particular season. But we're back for the second season. As you can see, looks different, feels different. We have good microphones here. This is going to be both audio and visual. Before we get into it, want to thank the Office of Research at the University of Waterloo for helping me sort of put this together. Our partners, Liftoff, for financially helping us as well to support this podcast. And as you can see, this space has been gracefully given to us by Velocity Incubator. So if you guys want to come down to Velocity, have a look. Great space, lots of great businesses here as well that you could learn from. But this is the first season of a line of many episodes. In this second season, we're going to have interesting guests from different fields, different industries. At the end of the day, obviously, like I said, it is to create a socially connected world, but we want to learn from our guests. We want to use their experiences, tap into that, and use it to inspire ourselves, but also inspire action to do more now and in the future as well. So today, I am excited to announce that I am joined by one of my friends, but also a peer that I look up to because of the different things that she has been involved in. She is in her last semester of civil engineering. Yep, she's an engineer. She was one of the founders of the National Society of Black Engineers here at UW. And she's done so many great things that we're going to discuss in this episode. So, Naomi, thank you for coming. Welcome to the first episode. You're the first guest.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
How are you doing? You good?
I'm doing well. Very well.
It's good. It's good to have you. This is the Young Guy International. Like I said, we have guests from different parts of the world with obviously different heritages and cultures. And I thought that for the second season, it might be good to have an icebreaker that taps into the people's culture and heritage. And I wanted to ask you whether you could teach me and the audience what are 2 things or what are 2 words that we could sort of use as to start the conversation today.
Yeah, for sure. My background, I'm Cameroonian. I grew up in Canada, but, I always root for my country and everything. So, I think one thing that I probably could say is in French, in Cameroon, we'll be to say we're happy. We'll be okay, c'est de ça qu'il s'agit. This is what's going on. We like that,
C'est de ça qu'il s'agit.
C'est de ça qu'il s'agit. It's in French,
C'est de ça qu'il s'agit.
Yeah, c'est de ça qu'il s'agit. It's a way to dab each other up. That's what's up, I guess also in Cameroon, my country, my language is Iwando, so to say good morning, you could say Pumukiri.
Oh, Pumukiri.
Yeah.
So we've learned 2 words today. C'est de s'agit.
That's a sentence.
It's a sentence.
Yeah, c'est de ça qu'il s'agit.
Oh, c'est de ça qu'il s'agit is a sentence. Oh.
Yeah.
And then the other word is?
Pumbukiri.
Pumbukiri. I think I like that one. It's easier. Okay, so I want to talk to you about civil engineering. I think that's a good place to start because you are a student first. Talk to me about the decision and the reason behind choosing civil engineering and what motivated you to get into civil engineering?
Yeah, honestly, I feel a lot of things combined, but mostly just always had an inspiration to do something where I could create and see what I've created in real life. For a long time, I didn't know that I was really going to go into engineering. Like I was kind of like brought into it later on. But when I did start doing my research on like what do engineers actually do, civil was the one that aligned the most with me. I really felt like it was very diverse in terms of like you could do transportation, you can do structural, you can do geological. Like there was a lot of different paths. So that really interested me. And as I went into like my degree and I really like started to learn about the different topics, I found like the structural was the most challenging, but I also really like a challenge. And I think when I did my different internships, doing the structural one was the one that I felt the most like there was like a path for me to like grow and that I wanted to see myself like achieve. Seeing like my managers like be so knowledgeable and be like, this is supposed to be that. And I was like, whoa, like I'm so inspired by how they are so knowledgeable, and seeing that that's like a path I could follow as well, like helped me like really realize like, okay, this is like the path I want to follow and continue in. So yeah.
I'll tell you a little something about me as well. Initially, when I was applying to university, I did want to do biomedical engineering, but there was this general feeling that it's the hardest. So I wanted to ask you, is biomedical engineering the hardest engineering?
Biomedical and software do typically have the more like higher
to get into it.
Yeah, like it's a lot more competitive. But I feel like everything is relative, you know? Like I hear that there's like a lot of great professors, a lot of great community in biomedical, in software sometimes and stuff. So I feel like all of it combined makes for what is like hard or difficult. That's my point of view. I'm not really a person that like subscribes to like, oh, like this is harder than this. Like if you love something, it will come more naturally to you than if you feel like you have no resources and things like that. So I think everything is relative. And I think every engineering is difficult.
It can be as difficult.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, and let's go back to civil engineering. You did say there's a plethora of different avenues that you could get into, but for you, how do you envision sort of applying your passion for this for urban development sort of into your future career?
Yeah, I honestly feel like right now my bigger focus is just like getting to know like the basics of everything. Like there's a lot to learn about structural engineering, and a lot of it's also related to credibility. Like how many projects have you done? Because the more projects you do, the more exposed you are to different types of like unique instances where you have to have like special like solutions for things. But I would say like for me, my most ideal would be like to do things that are more related to humanitarian like projects. So especially like, for example, if I see in our communities, there's a lot of like housing needs, like just in Canada, in a student environment, like there's a lot of folks that are like needing housing and it's way too expensive, all that stuff. But a lot of that is related to the developers and all the people involved in like creating these buildings. So if I could be somebody that could work on more projects that are a little bit pro bono and it's for a good cause, and afterwards like it will service people that actually like would benefit from it, that would be like the most ideal. Only thing with things like that is like it's not, a lot of companies are more driven by like, you know, the regime. Like they want to get money, they like want high-rise buildings, and they want as many people as in as little space as possible. So there's a lot of that going on. But if in the future I could work with like projects or teams that are more aligned, and there are different companies that have teams that are specifically related to just doing like more sustainable, more like people focused humanitarian pro bono projects, and like if I can get on one of those teams, that'd be a really great start. But until then, it's more just like, you know, learning what I can so that I can be knowledgeable and have the tools so that later on I have the knowledge, and now let me like apply it to things that I really care about as well.
Now, see, you did bring up something that I think is very pertinent to students, housing. We're not going to talk too much about it, but I did want to ask you, as a student, do you genuinely feel like this is going to change the housing situation in terms of the way we are paying for the places we are staying in? Do you genuinely feel, as a Canadian yourself and the trends that you've seen, do you genuinely feel that it's going to change for the better?
Well, it's changed for the worse. Like I've seen it change. So I'm just thinking like if it can change for the worse, then I feel like, I don't know if it can pull back, but I think there could be solutions to make it better. Some of the units that I see today are like $300, $400 more than when I started university. So it's like, that's a big change that has happened recently by like the cause of like, the pandemic and all these different things. But I do know that there's also buildings that do prioritize students, that want to make sure that people aren't getting, like just like taken advantage of because like they have no choice but to pay because they have to go to school. Where are they supposed to go? So I think this kind of like aligned with like those types of things. Like I know, for example, in Toronto, there's some buildings where you can do like volunteer hours and then your cost of rent is subsidized. Like it's a little bit like less or whatnot. Like there's different programs that can come in and help support like those types of things so that people don't have to like pay an arm and a leg and also have like a whole barrier to them going to school. Because it's like if you need to pay a whole other additional thousands plus just to like get to school on top of your tuition, it's just like a lot. So
it is a lot.
I feel like there is solution, but I don't know like
how best we can sort of approach it and make it, more large scale so that in the different markets that it is happening, it can be mitigated. You mentioned something that I loved here, humanitarianism. I want to link humanitarianism to something that I think really sparked your journey, which is being one of the founders or bringing back the National Society of Black Engineers here at the University of Waterloo. Simple question. Why did you feel it was important to bring it back to UW?
So the National Society of Black Engineers is a chapter of a larger organization of the National Society of Black Engineers that's mostly rooted in the United States. It has over like 50 years of history of helping students, Black students specifically, develop academically and professionally and giving them access to different resources, scholarships, trainings, etc. And so different universities will take on chapters and then do the same type of work at their university, like within their specific scale. So yeah, Waterloo did have a chapter previously, probably in 2010-ish, but it was not long lasting. It only lasted for like about a year. To run an organization, like you need people, and a lot of the people that started it graduated at the same time, and then it just didn't fulfill its time. And from then, it's really needs like energy for people to come back and think like, okay, I want to take that on, because it's a lot of work to start something up and like keep it going for years, especially when you're working with people that are a minority in their field. So it's like, if you're looking at being Black in engineering, this is something where you would have to just be in that position to see that there's not as much representation in your classrooms and things like that. So when I was in first year, I had interacted with an upper year student, and she pretty much just told me that she had an idea to start a chapter. And I was like, whenever you want to get started, like just let me know. Like I definitely want to be involved. And following like a year later, she was like, okay, like I think I got a couple like other people that are interested, like let's get going and let's do it. And I think that was really like a really important part of like how we got to where we're at, because we spent some time like just together asking ourselves like, what do we want out of this chapter, and really reflecting on like how we can make this something sustainable, especially that it was something that previously didn't really work out that way. And we faced challenges in the very beginning because we started in 2019, and a few months later the pandemic started. But I think the most important thing was for us to be able to create a space for students. And in even our first initial events before the pandemic hit, so many like dozens of students came in and were like, I just wanted to see myself represented. Like this is the most like other Black engineers I've ever met and stuff. So we already felt like the impact was there. And then through the pandemic and then up to this point now, it's just like only growing that space and making people really know that there's places for them to connect, there's places for them to feel represented. And now like first year students don't have to come in like not knowing like if they can find somebody that looks like them, or if they can find a mentor that can relate to them in that way. Like it's a lot easier, and it's a lot like more opportunities even for like leadership and growth. So ultimately, like the whole idea of just like making sure it was like something that could live the test of time, for me, I feel like it really did do that. So Yeah.
And obviously, you're graduating soon. What do you hope? What's your hope for NSB in like the next 5 to 10 years?
That's a great great question. Just because that's a conversation we're gonna have as a big team in the next couple weeks, because we did do a 5-year plan 5 years ago, and some of the things that we wrote did actually happen. So it's definitely important to have that vision. But I would say for me, it's definitely just more of that sustainability, but also like expansion. I feel like we did a lot of that initial work of making that community, like making sure people have a space, making sure people see each other. But what do we do of that? You know, what do we do of like having these amazing minds of people that are really kind and generous and loving and stuff? What do we do when all of us come together? Are we just like hanging out, or are we like creating things together? Are we like building something that's greater than what we just see right in front of us? You know, are we collaborating? Like, how do we expand, and taking the time to, you know, break down how we can expand so that it's like also programs that are well developed, and like in 5 years people are benefiting from like that like ultimate growth as well. So yeah.
And you never know, people always remember, hey, Naomie and the one who brought it back. So
Naomie and, you know, the folks, everyone else too, you know.
Yeah, that I think that obviously is going to be a great stamp for you in your resume, but also for the future sort of engineers that will eventually come to UW. This is something interesting, I think, for the people watching or listening. So Naomie and I sit on the Student Equity and Advisory Board for Cooperative Experiential Education at UW. For those of you who don't know, University of Waterloo has the core program that they run. So our job is to basically advise from an equity lens the folks that run CEE to sort of make it more inclusive, have a bit more of diversity, this equity aspect to it. And I think you can see that Naomie's journey sort of has that representation sort of at the core of everything you do. But my question in regards to that as now representation being your core is, what sort of strategies have you found that have been most effective sort of to empower and to affirm Black students that might feel underrepresented on campus? You can answer this through maybe the NSB lens, the Naomie lens, but also the CEE lens.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of levels. Maybe I'll start with the Student Equity Advisory Group. So I think for me, like being a part of it these past few years, it's really been important to bring in the information that I've gained from just being a community member, because I feel like for me, I'm not just like doing things and like writing like, oh, my name is this and I put this and that. It's like I live to be in the presence of other people and to really hear about their experiences, and then in the spaces that I'm in, be able to advocate with that in mind. And it just happens that like, because I'm a part of different things, sometimes I hear different stories, I hear different challenges people are going through, and it touches me because I'm like, other folks need to know, people that are empowered need to know. And so when I'm with the Student Equity Advisory and I'm talking about like different things that I would like to see, and like they bring forth motions, they bring forth like things that they're planning on changing, and they ask for our opinion, I'm considering all the people that I've seen and all the struggles I've heard repeatedly, like people are going through the same thing, and it's important that the like people that are in charge aren't like unaware or can say that they were unaware of these things. So I feel like for me, that's like the way that I feel is most important to do, like especially advocacy. It's like you can advocate on like, especially like sure, like a research base, like of like this is what has been trends, but then there's also real like getting in the ground, like, you know, being a part of the folks. Like that's when you really learn about how people are like dealing with different things and how you can be as like open to advocating about like what could be happening for change and everything. So yeah, I'm always like trying to take on different opportunities that they also share with us through the board, because I feel like the more I can like speak to and the more I can also learn about the different motions, the better advocate I can be. And even when other students come to me, I have resources that I can like share with them as well, because like I'm a part of those conversations, and then I can like trickle it down to other folks that may be like just looking for some sort of guidance guidance.
So would you say that the thing that motivates you is sort of seeing someone's life change after they have, spoken to you or after you've given them advice?
Yeah, like, I mean, they're life changing. It's like that's so I've seen things that have been great to see. Like, I definitely can say, like, just out of my own, like, because that kind of becomes like more me. I really do value when people come and ask me for like my opinion or if I can like review something for them, because it does make me feel like, oh my God, you think like I can like help you? Like, it's so sweet. But also I know that because of the things I've implemented in my life, there are certain strategies that can optimize like results, and it does feel really good to be able to like pour into somebody and then them coming back and being like, hey, like this made a difference. Like, I got a job interview, or I got the job, or, just bridging those connections. And a lot of times, like, people already have it. They just don't know how to like promote and like showcase like what they're, the incredible things that they're doing, or their talents and their skills and stuff like that. So I feel like even just being able to like speak in to people and be like, you got it, like you already are doing it. Like, you just need to like walk in and show that, like, that is more of like what I get energy from, like seeing them also start to believe in themselves as well.
So that's true. And obviously, from what I'm hearing, your journey has sort of given you lots of experiences, but many things that you can learn from and pick from. Now, what is one thing that you would tell first year Naomie, looking back and saying, oh, because I think an answer like that would help sort of the current first years, but also future first years that are going into this space that is like, wow,
I just feel like, especially practically, I would say like, just make sure you like connect with the people around you. Like, I think that's like a big thing. And I'm glad, for example, just saying again, like NSB is a space, for example, that people can connect, but even in your classrooms, just trying to make sure that you are like present, and you want and welcome like different interactions, because I think that will go a long way. And, I also like just genuinely believe that like kind of everything is made up. So like you can just like create your own path. Like, you don't have to be as worried. And this is something I learned like after my first year, just by like observing certain people. Like, you can either like play by rules and be like, kind of like, oh, I don't think I meet this. Like, you can start to make yourself small. Like, oh, I don't think I qualify for this. I think this is too much for me, and that all this stuff. But like, you're limiting yourself before even trying. So I would just say, like, if you are interested in something, like, it does not hurt to just give it a try. Like, the worst thing that can happen is they say no, or you don't get it or whatever, but at least you put yourself out there and like continuing to do that. And even just like believing that it's something that can happen for you. If you want something, it can happen. And like, just looking only at like, oh, do I have this? I don't have this specific thing. Like, that is just limiting beliefs. And I really wish that like from an earlier place, I had more of that like sense of like, what, just try things, put yourself out there, and like things will start to open up for you naturally. And yeah.
So you did mention the aspect of it being sort of things coming naturally to you once you get through the experiences, and obviously that answer that you said about some things you tell your first year self. I think from what I've seen in your journey, you've always found ways of helping people, whether it's through CE, NSB, or just genuinely just being there. And one of the things that I sort of follow, and I know many people follow as well, is Scientific. So for those of you who don't know Scientific right now, I think it's just Instagram. It's
we have YouTube, TikTok as well. Yeah.
Oh, YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna plug that in the podcast as well, so you go check it out. But from the kind of tips that you give, the advice that you share there, what do you envision sort of doing with Scientific and building with Scientific? And then maybe you could also sort of give us more background into why scientific? Because I know your name's in there, but
Yeah, for sure. Why scientific? Yeah, we first should start with the name, like say like my last name and scientific, like scientific, so STEM, everything. So yeah, scientific was something that came to me. I just felt like I was doing a lot. Like you said, I'm always like giving back. I'm involved in a lot of different things, but I just kind of wanted a space where it was my voice and I could speak freely about like my particular experience, and then also about topics that I find interesting, or I feel like when I was like in a position where I was looking for mentors or people that are like me, I feel like one of the biggest things for me is like I feel that I'm like an unconventional engineer. It's not, if you think of the image of an engineer, it's not usually somebody like me. And then also I'm like very social and all this stuff. Like typically when I tell people I'm an engineer, it's not something that they would have expected of me. And I wanted to make sure that other people like me feel comfortable going into that space, even if that is the case, because there's space for everybody in the industry and in whatever industry you want, but like just to be yourself in all spaces. And that's what I really wanted to be able to showcase. And that's something that's important to me. And so, yeah, like doing these videos for me is just a way to give advice to people. And then also like for me, it was about like being comfortable talking about STEM topics. I feel like a lot of times, like I would see folks like just like go on like whole tangents about technical information and things like that. And I feel like I didn't have as much like confidence or practice doing that. So Scientific gave me an opportunity to do that in a way that I found cool and interesting, and like do little case studies, like history videos on like different buildings and stuff. And so I like doing that because it gives me at least a chance to dig into some topics and practice some of the technical things I'm learning, and then share it in a way that's a little humoristic, but also like informative and like kind of like, did you know type style. So I think my biggest hope for the Scientific page and Scientific universe is just like continue helping people, because one thing that definitely has happened is like even from like people that haven't even started university to people that are in their first year to people that are around the world that just DM me and they're like, I love your videos, like what do you think about this, like could you give me advice, and like just come along with the journey. Like I think it's really important to me to be able to be a part of that and like be able to create that genuine community of people sharing and like being able to have like one-on-one like mentorship and like information from me just like freely, because I feel like if you can benefit from me giving you advice, like that makes me happy. And then if you like things progress in your life, I'm gonna be proud, and like it all comes back together. And then yeah, just continuing to do more of like that networking aspect. Like I would for sure want to put on events for Scientific specifically, because I do feel like I have a specific lens in terms of not only talking about STEM, but talking about like how you need to be like a diversified person. Like you should be able to do dynamic things. Like I believe in being involved in a lot of different stuff. I believe in like tapping into your different skills and your different interests. I don't feel like you have to be like monolithic, just one like path. I feel like you can really explore, and I feel like that's what makes like your life rich. So I want to be able to bring people into that, and like if it's through events, if it's through more of like the historical videos, if it's through more of like, just get to know me day in the life type stuff, and like just branching off and like collaborating with different organizations and doing more of what like folks want to see, and hopefully building from there and creating different like programs and services and trainings. So it's a lot that can be done through it. And I think so far it's been mostly like the scope of what I can do as like a current university student, because it's a lot, but in the future we'll see.
And how do you balance that? Obviously pursuing Scientific, but also being an engineer. How have you been able to sort of strike a balance between what you need to do, your passion, what you?
Yeah, I feel like for the most part, it's been like ebbs and flow. So I've been like really consistent at certain points, and then sometimes I need to like take a break and things like that. So kind of just being realistic of where I'm at in my specific time of like life or schooling and everything. But mostly I feel like the time where I've been most pushing since is like probably a year and a half to 2 years since then. I think it's mostly just like, well, why am I doing this? And like that kind of motivates me. And then from there, I try to just be like, okay, it's been like a little bit too much time since I last posted. Like I need to have a plan. A lot of things I have filmed already, but it's more just like the editing, all that stuff. So trying to balance like, okay, maybe I can't put out like a full video that I haven't edited yet, but I can still post on my story. I can still share certain nuggets like while I'm still like trying to figure out like bigger projects, and then like, you know, just focusing, having my priorities, which is like school and like, you know, my health and wellness and stuff. But then afterwards, like really trying to carve out time to do scientific things when possible, and especially valuing it just as much as I value like NASB and CE and stuff. Like I feel like I'm a type of person, I put a lot of like, I really value the things that I do, but sometimes it's a little challenging valuing like your own stuff. Sometimes like it's different when it's your own project. So kind of making sure I do that for myself.
For yourself as well. Yeah, I could tell you that Scientific is a very inspiring place to be, because obviously you do recommend books as well. So I think obviously we're going to put the links to the different pages in the description when the episode does come out, so that people can obviously go, because I think there's a lot of inspiring stuff that you do have to offer. And in as much as you're inspiring people, I think there's an aspect of inspiration that is being given to you as well. I read an article that was written about you, and you mentioned your parents sort of being people that have sort of helped you through your different ebbs and flows, but also being there just to help you through everything and anything. And you did mention your dad in that interview, and I wanted to ask, how have your parents served as an inspiration to you, or how have they influenced sort of your decisions and the person that you're becoming, the person that you are today? Yeah. What role have they played?
I think I can only be grateful for how much my parents poured into me and how intentional they were throughout all of our childhood. I know especially like my dad, he was a big on like visionary, like plan ahead, dream big. Like he was always telling us like, you can't be a consumer, you have to be a creator. Like you have to do like things. Yeah. Like he was like, you cannot just like exist, you need to bring something. So I think like having somebody like that from before I could even understand like, oh my gosh, like why you like, it's like, oh my gosh, I just want to go to the park. But he was the type of like, no, like if you have like a homework page, he's gonna create another homework page for you, because like he wanted you to just always push forward and go bigger, try big, like go for like the biggest dreams possible. And I think that instilled something really like special in me and all my siblings, because we are able to be like, we want to do as much as we can out of the life that we have. You know, my parents come from humble beginnings, and like they came from far, like they're Cameroonian and they immigrated to Canada. They have expectations for us to be able to thrive and, you know, make the most out of the country that we're living in now. And so now seeing that as an adult and really being able to optimize the different opportunities that I have available to me, I feel like that's all like thanks to my parents really crafting that type of mindset in me. And also because they did that for me, I can also recognize like the difference in between, like if that hadn't have been the case, like I really did realize like a lot of folks, like they have parents that are incredible, working very hard and everything, but like being able to have somebody that's like consistently there for you and making sure like you're on top of your education, all that stuff is not a given. It's not something that everybody's just like granted. So I also think about that as I operate, because I want to make sure that folks that maybe don't have that automatically at their house or whatnot still can get that from like different sorts of programming, or just be introduced to it in different ways, because I think it does make all the difference. And like me having like my dad, like, you know, he's an engineer, everything, so he really spoke like to me in terms of like being that representation of like different things I can be, different things I can do, and allowing me to not have that type of like self-doubt that this is a possible path. So yeah, both my dad, my mom, like she's a teacher, everybody, like my family was really like just supportive on like, you can do whatever you want to do in this life and just like go for it, work hard, and like things will happen for you. So
that's true. I do think obviously our parents play a key role in shaping us, sort of giving us these different values that then, we use as our guides in our life? What's one value or a couple of values that you think your parents gave you when you were relatively young that you see yourself doing and you're like, oh that's
gosh.
Because of,
Yeah, there's the one that came to mind, but my dad is like such a genius. I know he's writing a book and everything, so I'm not gonna say some of the things because I'll let him like quote his own stuff. But I think like pretty much like especially about like the consumerism and like it's like if you have like opportunities, take full advantage is probably like the biggest thing and value that my parents like instilled in us. Like don't think about like if there's like shortcuts and things like that. Like if you can do something, take full opportunity of it and like thrive in that. And also just continuously giving back. Like my parents are very generous people. They always give back. They have like their own foundation as well, actually, that like helps like Cameroonian kids go to school and everything. So there's always been that aspect of like they worked hard for their kids to get to this space and everything and to like do something better for their family, but they also always want us to consider like you gained all of this, like don't only think about yourself, think about how you can impact other people positively as well.
I agree. Like Naomie said, obviously there's lots that we can learn. For me, when I think about all the different things that I do, obviously it also comes from a place. So my parents also are very goal-oriented, they're focused, they're driven, both of them in their own right. And just seeing the way that I am now and the way that I do things, obviously it comes down from them because that's, as young people, that's sort of who we see at the beginning, and it does shape, the work that we do and the different things that we go into. As we sort of wrap up and sort of move towards the end of our first episode, I have a couple more questions that are now around Naomie in the future. So where in an ideal world, obviously there's going to be work that you're going to have to do to get there. Where do you see Naomie in 10 years? What would be ideal for Naomie in the next 10 years?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just want to be happy and healthy. Like, I think that's like a blessing. So I definitely would just want to be like alive. But otherwise, just continuing in structural engineering. That's like my field of interest. I really think that there's so much for me to learn in that. So just working on incredible projects with incredible people. I do see in the future, probably beyond 10 years, but hopefully having my own firm so I can work on some of those like personal projects, as I mentioned, and really just being able to connect to the different areas that I'm interested in. So whether it's through scientific, the community, giving back, organizing, making sure people are learning and gaining skills, or through technical work, and then just being like a happy, family-oriented, type stuff, like kind of that whole balance. But yeah, ultimately just being in a place where I can connect with the different things that I'm interested in and like really being like a part of a community of people that support that and like are advocating for me as well. So
I noticed you didn't mention anything about Cameroon. Do you think that with the work that you're doing or with the experiences that you have, you might also, one day implement it back in Cameroon?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think for me, it's about always prioritizing education. So for me, I was born in Canada and like I recently traveled to Cameroon and I was learning so much about my culture and really got to meet so much people in my family. And I think the thing for me was like even seeing some of my family works in construction and things like that. So I'm like, if I could find a way to connect all of it, like that would be incredible because there are infrastructure needs in Cameroon. There are different like areas where we can start up projects. And not only Cameroon too, like I'm definitely very oriented on like Africa as a whole. Like I want to make sure that, there's like such a great boom of like youth and like talent and skills there. And like, that's like my roots. So if I can be connected in any type of way in projects that are related to, really making sure that folks can get the best like education, best skill development possible and put it to use and really have something for themselves so that future generations can benefit and continue to grow. I want to be in part of that. And that's why I feel like I'm also making sure I'm getting as much like education as I can possible, as much experience as I can possible here, so that like I can go and also contribute to my community back home as well.
That's a good perspective to have. I always tell people, in as much as you're doing the different things that you're doing, always find a way of thinking about where it all began, where you came from, and sort of giving back in one way or another, and using the experiences that you have to grow these areas. Because like you said, there is a huge pool of talent, and I mean, we are here as a result of that, so we just need to go and keep supporting. What advice do you have for future engineers? It doesn't have to be specific to anything, but what advice would you have to future engineers and university students about sort of balancing work and education?
I mean, I probably need advice myself, but no, I think just really, especially, your first year, it's like, I think a time for you to figure out where you lie in all of what university will be, because a lot of times we don't really know what to expect until you're already in it. So just try to be honest with like how you're handling just your academics, and build up the responsibilities from there, because I feel like a lot of times you may like take on more than what you think you can, and just trying to figure out where you first are is important, and then just work hard. I don't know, university is not easy, so you really have to just continuously have that like effort and push of like, what, I have an objective, and which is to complete this degree. And when you tell yourself that, and you have people like, you need to have like people that you can call and just be like, this is too much. And then they're like, you know what, you're almost done. Like, keep going, making sure you have those types of people, or, gain those types of people in your university community, because it's really important for people to remind you why you're doing what you're doing, and like help you in those moments where it's like feeling challenging, or if you feel defeated or whatnot. But ultimately, just like continue working hard. I really do feel like if you can do the most to optimize like your best abilities in academics, I think that opens up a lot of opportunities for you. And then if you're great at your jobs as well, that opens up a lot of opportunities for you. So in your best way, and always, have grace with yourself, because we're all just trying our best, but, just show up and do what you can, and ask for help, ask for help, ask for help. And yeah, hopefully you will have like good experience.
Do you think first year Naomie would be proud of Naomie today?
Yes, because I've gone through a lot. So honestly, like even now that I'm in my last semester, a lot of times the last semester, I'm still fighting for my life, but I'm like, oh my goodness, like the girl that I was like when I started, and it was just like, really just trying to manage everything that comes with university, and not knowing like, is this really for me? Like, should I really go into engineering? Like just having so many levels of like doubts and ups and downs, but it makes for a good story at the end, and definitely going to be celebrating big once I really finish. So yeah, I'm proud.
Thank you, Naomie, for being on the podcast today. We honestly do appreciate it here at the Young Guy International. I think for our first episode, this was great. I've enjoyed it. Obviously, there's lots we've learned from your story, from your insights as well. Obviously, being in civil engineering, what you envisioned with civil engineering, then to NESB, and what obviously inspired you to being involved in NESB as a whole. We did talk about CEE and how obviously that representation, it being like the core of what you do, then linking it to obviously the inspirational aspect of the work that you do through scientific, and then your parents. I think interviews like this, knowledge like this that you have shared for the audience watching is invaluable. So we do want to thank you. And here at the Young Guy International, the second season, we obviously spoke about having an honorarium for this interview, but you did mention before the interview started that you think it would be best to sort of give it to an organization that might benefit from it a bit more. So we did want you to sort of talk to?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I would love that, like, that funding can go to Share Your Passions. It's a foundation that was started by a good friend of mine, Benny, and really what it focuses on is helping young girls in Congo get access to education and in turn help them with STEM careers and STEM programming and just being exposed to STEM topics. And I think it's something that's super, super important, especially like folks like there's so many career paths that could be open to you, but sometimes you just don't get the exposure to it. And especially like if the only barrier is something like paying tuition, which in Canada, that could amount to like something like $100 in what they need to be able to go to school and get that education. If there are folks that are willing to help and contribute that money to support a student who can then go on and create amazing things and contribute to their society and be really engaged in something where they can create, I feel it's so important. And Benny, she's an incredible mechatronics engineering student, and she has just so much wonderful passions, and like just being able to see how she has thrived in STEM, you know, she really cares about making sure other girls just like her can also thrive. So definitely, you know, if you can, support the organization, donate. And yeah, I'm really, really happy to support.
That sounds good. So obviously, Young Guy International will give that honorarium to Share Your Passion. So that's going to be it for us today. For those of you listening, thank you for listening. For those of you watching, this is on YouTube, so please subscribe, like, and do all these interesting things that that they always tell people to do. You did teach us a couple of words at the beginning, so that's where we're going to end. So she did tell me that this is how we say goodbye. So it is Bibala, right? So that is Bibala to you. But then she did also give me an interesting word that I'm going to try to say. C'est de Sakil Saj, right?
The second saji. It's a sentence. It's a sentence.
I'll get it. I'll get
it.
Yeah, but thank you again, Naomie. Thank you guys for watching. And we'll see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.